Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are looking at a weekly meta breakdown for the historic best of one format, looking at the best performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder up to Mythic rank for the format. We'll hopefully get the historic best of three in the coming days. There wasn't a huge amount of data, and then we'll redo all the formats on Arena, so we'll take a look at that. Most notably, there was an alchemy release today for Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It's too early to see the stats. The set just came out maybe like 2-3 hours from recording this. But I don't think there's anything super impactful, but we'll see kind of where the meta goes from there. So we get the data from UntapGG, what you see on the screen, companion tool that aggregates your win rate with other users, gives a whole bunch of cool stats, both in terms of meta popularity, like what volume of decks are in the metagame, as well as the actual corresponding win rates. So we are going to be looking at that. If you want to get started with Untap, link is in the video description. I'll timestamp and paste all these deck lists for your consumption as well. So we're going to look Platinum to Mythic rank for the week since it's beginning of the month. So the ladder kind of flipped over. And then we're going to look at about 2 weeks of data, basically, actually almost 3 weeks, basically the entirety of Outlaws of Thunder Junction being legal. So in terms of popularity of the day, Izzet Wizards is the most popular deck, 35%, so head and heels higher than the next deck, 3.5 times of Azorius Control. We have Elves coming in at about 10%, Mono Green Devotion at about 8%. We have the Reanimator deck, which we'll take a look. It's like a combo kind of deck. Angels is making a bit of a comeback, but I don't think the Angels deck is that good beyond like Platinum. It just loses to too many. Like there's a sustained card advantage and stuff like that. The other decks just can run it down a little bit too quick. So if you want to play Angels, you can play. I'm not going to recommend it or kind of focus on it today. But we could just see Wizards. Like at one point, it was peaking at 46%. So this might be something where keeping an eye on if something like Symmetry Sage or the likes get a nerf in the near future. So we are going into the set itself, 120,000 games played from April 16th through to the 7th. And the highest win rate deck is the aforementioned Wizards. So there's a couple different builds of this deck. There's ones with Treasure Cruise, Snapcaster Mage, the varied number of slickshot show-offs. This version here is on a single slickshot. You have the Dreadhorde Arcanist still with Balmor. So same kind of creature package. However, kind of interesting. This one's more like prowessy style. The Monastery Swiftspear is not a wizard, so it does reduce the number of wizards in your deck, so you have fewer targets for Wizard's Lightning and Flame of Anor. So something just to keep in mind when you are playing this kind of configuration. Usually it's Soulscar Mage that's in place here, being that it is a wizard itself. This one version also is on Slick Sequence. I don't think this card's that good. I would rather just true up like the numbers of playable spells like Wizard's Lightning, even just like another Spell Pierce maybe, or play like your Soulscar Mage instead of this. 2 damage for 2 mana isn't that great of a rate when a lot of like the notable wizards are 3 toughness, and that's going to be like your most prevalent matchup. And then if you cast if it's your second spell cast, you get to draw a card. Kind of keeping that in mind, but a very aggressive deck, just kind of smashing your opponent in the face over and over. A lot of haste threats kind of mixed into it, but this version 78%. We then have a return of Auras. So kind of an interesting build of Auras here, 75%. So the engines with the deck are Core Spirit Dancer, Shram. Sometimes you'll see Light Paws in here as well. I'm just kind of surprised to see Light Paws. I'm probably better off playing Light Paws over Storm Chaser Drake, to be honest. You have protection effects with like Selfless Savior. And then you have Esper Sentinel as a tax effect to get you some card draw as well. Flying, card advantage, various protection spells that are also mixed, as well as giving you ways to get like unblockable, card advantage, lifelink. This version's also on the Settle the Wreckage. I think in this deck here, you just want to focus on being the more linear deck. So I would likely just do that. This mana base can also be improved. You should be playing the fast land. You should be playing like the full set of pathways, Iganjo, Otawara, stuff like that, just to kind of trim up the deck itself. I would almost say 22 lands may be a little bit too heavy for this deck. You might be able to get away with like 20, but just some initial observations of the deck. Then go to Mono Green Devotion. So this list here is leveraging Nykthos Shrine to Nyx to generate a whole bunch of mana. A lot of accelerants early. You have Kiora to tap and tap. Ideally, your Nykthos to generate huge amounts of mana. And then you could pump it into like One Ring, Karn. You have your big top end with Storm the Festival, Cavalier. Karn gives you a Karn board of helpful hits like Haywire Might. You have Soul Guide Lantern for Graveyard Hate. You have Stone Brain for combo, One Ring, Platinum Angel can lock some of the opponent's decks out. You have Cityscape Lever to blow stuff up, and then Portal to New Phyrexia, or Portal to Phyrexia to kind of be a big over-the-top edict and then reanimate style effect. You then move to Azorius Control, 70% win rate. So this version here, opting for temporary lockdown. You usually see like Divine Purge be played, sometimes in place here too, so something to consider there. This version's got like Reprieves, No More Lies, Get Lost, so kind of a mix, a little fewer copies of Dovin Veto, and then just a mix of 1 mana removal spells, Path to Exile being the most notable new one. Spell Snare. It's an okay card. I would probably play more Stern Scolding over the Spell Snare, just given that this has a wider range, can hit 1 and 2 drops. This can only hit 2 drops. Snapcaster to flash stuff back, and then just a varied number of 3 mana spells. So again, interesting split between like Absorb, Archmage, and Disallow in terms of what they're playing in terms of stats. You have Sweepers and Spring Verdict as well as Farewell, and Emperors, Teferis, and Shark Typhoons your win condition, in addition to like Restless Anchorage or Hall of the Storm Giants. You then have a mono red burn, kind of aggressively slanted deck, so Slickshot Show Off. You have the Wizard package, Gitu, Soulscar Mage mixed in there as well. You have Swiss Spears in here. So this one's fine with Swiss Spears because you're not like as wizard focused. Like there's no Flame of Anor, card advantage to light up the stage. The Reckless Charge is just more of a pump effect here. Shove Asides, Monstrous Rage. So just a very aggressively slanted mono red deck. Kind of going toe to toe with wizards. So cleaner mana lets you get a little bit leaner. The curve here is basically all pretty much 1-drops. These are all 1-drops, and then Slickshot Show Off. We then go to Rakdos Vampires, and if you had an Explorer deck or a Pioneer deck, you can bring it to this format, and it'll do just fine, 67%. So combination of Vein Ripper and Sorin, very powerful interaction here. Lets you kind of cheat that into play. Decks like Wizards can trade with it in combat or use Flame of Anor, but they have to kind of throw away one of their creatures as well. Otherwise, just cheap removal between Fatal Push, Bitter Triumph. One card you might want to consider as well, especially just given the prevalence of wizards, is Shove Aside in the list. Just gives you another 1 mana answer for the wizards deck. Flexible kind of removal spell there, but very strong. Shieldred's kind of take over, Fable, all this, that kind of jazz as well. Then go to Dimir Rogues, so 65%. So mill kind of focused. You have Sorin Thoughtseize, very Mastermind, Thieves Guild Enforcer, so it's kind of like a tempo control deck. Cheap removal between Cutdowns and Fatal Push. Hand Hate in here, Stern Scolding, Drown and Lock as a counter, card advantage with Into the Story as well. Restless Reef as another creature land, along with the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, and you get to play that all in a Luris Companion Shell. Moving on, we go to a combo deck, 5-color Reanimator. So this deck here is looking to self-mill, Faithless Looting, Otherworldly Gaze, Faithful Mending. You put into your graveyard a copy of Emergent Ultimatum, and then you either reanimate the Scholar of Lost Troves, which lets you cast Emergent Ultimatum, or you Mizzix Mastery Emergent Ultimatum. You get the card combination of Vorinclex, Vraska, and Omniscience. And then if they give you these two, Vorinclex comes to play, Vraska comes in with double the counters. You ultimate Vraska, it gives them 18 poison counters, they lose the game. Not, you just get like Omniscience and kind of go from there too. Karmic Justice is another way to kind of return permanents from your graveyard. So it's kind of got that. So it's not like Dragonstorm that's usually immediately infinite. They can kind of interrupt. So basically they're always going to give you Omniscience, and then they give you one of these, which is likely going to be the Vorinclex. And then you just try to get the other copy of Vraska from your deck. Moving on, we go to Mono Green Elves. So 61%. So this one's a kind of an interesting one, leveraging Paradox Engine to generate huge amounts of mana. Tap and tap, play a bunch of stuff. Leyline of Abundance is a mana sink. Allosaurus Shepherd's a mana sink. Elvish War Master's a mana sink. You have big amounts of mana being generated from Circle of Dream Druids and Elvish Arch Druid. The most notable thing I will suggest people, stop putting Gaia's Blessing in your deck. You're going to run into mill maybe one every like 40, 50 games. You're better off just playing a more linear game plan. This is not going to do much for you. I would just play like more elves. Like you should be playing all the 1-drop elves, for example. Cut this Paradise Druid, cut the Gaia's Blessing, play the full gambit of 1-drop elves. There, you have a cleaner mana base. Everything works out really nice there as well. He says, as he highlights Mono Blue Mill. So again, this is a deck. It's got a 58% win rate. It's not something you're going to see excessively on the ladder. But if you lose to Mill, like you can just out aggro them. They're not going to interact with you necessarily. But Rune Crabs, you have the Charted Course is an interesting one here. Again, like I'd play the full set of Rune Crabs. Charted Course isn't really doing much because you're not attacking with this deck. And then some of these like bigger mana ones, just to kind of draw discard, seem a little bit slow. So you probably want to trim down. I would probably play like the full set of Crabs, maybe some Fading Hopes, just to kind of build you some tempo. But Orbs, Cacophonies, you have Bruvivac, which doubles the amount that would get milled. Fraying Sanity does extra mill. The Terusian Mindbreaker can also mill from the graveyard through an Earth for 4 mana. And then Jace is the big mana sink mill agent as well. You want to be adding an Otawara to this mana base. And then you got to go for town there. So that's it for the week. Historic in general is kind of weird. I feel like it's people either playing super, super spiky stuff or kind of janky. We could see through going through these lists that like a lot of these aren't super, super refined, but they're putting up reasonable win rates. So it is an option if you want to kind of grind, play the spikier deck. You can probably get some free wins against some of these more meme style strategies that are putting up win rate. In any case, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and see you next.